Hey everyone, Biohacking Blondes here. I'm here with Alex and our amazing guest today, Molly Maloof.
Hi.
Molly is a Healthspan Medical Doctor and Adamo Bioscience CEO and founder. As a physician and standard lecturer, Dr. Molly Maloof has spent her career providing personalized medicine services to high-performing technology executives, billionaire investors, Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, and Academy Award-winning actors who we kind of want to ask you about. What she noticed is that women specifically were feeling the spark that once energized their lives beginning to dim. We see that a lot, not just metaphorically, but in a measurable reduction in the energy output from their cells. In response, Dr. Molly developed a science-backed program focused on mitochondrial health used successfully by her patients, which offered lifestyle changes that target the unique biology of women and provide immediate and long-term benefits, now available in her book, The Spark Factor. So welcome, Molly. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, we're thrilled. We're so thrilled. So we love everything you do. I've started reading your book. I think it's amazing and it's so great and I think it's great for especially women who don't really know the world of biohacking and don't really
Mhm.
know kind of where to start and how to track their cycles and how
Yeah,
to learn how to eat and should I fast, shouldn't I fast? Like I think it's like such a great primer for all of that and it really hits the masses too. So you don't have to be already in the space to read it and all of that. I think it's very accessible, which I love.
thanks.
Um but yeah, so I know that Alex has a story about how you guys met and how you got here. So do you guys want to talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the story is pretty incredible. So first of all, thank you, Molly, for being here. And I think I see Molly when I first spoke to her a couple of weeks ago. She is really bridging the gap here. Well, we need a voice for the female biohackers, and I think Molly is our new Huberman here,
Yeah.
and she is impressive for her age. I won't reveal the age, but she's mega young. And what she's accomplishing and doing is just, I mean, it's off the charts. I don't know when you started, when you were basically a toddler, studying. I mean, she's lecturing at Stanford. I mean, incredible. She's built this whole, I mean, already at such a young age, she's built such an incredible presence, and the sky's the limit for her. But how we really met Molly, we were going to watch her at the biohacking conference, Molly and I. Yeah, Molly, my friend here, Molly,
This
my
Molly,
partner.
Molly S.
Yeah, that Molly. We were going to watch her at the Dave Asprey Biohacking Conference, but her flight was canceled, so that never happened. But instead, my husband and kids were out skiing in Jackson Hole last a week and a half ago, and basically was on the ski lift with Molly. My husband strikes up a conversation, and it turns out like, oh my goodness, you're into biohacking? Oh, so is my wife. Oh, she's into. That's how we all connected,
Yeah.
and this is why we're here today with Molly, and we are just, yeah, we're just so excited. We
And
got
it's
so
really
many great
funny.
questions for you, and I think
His friend he was with actually knew me from San Francisco and had heard of me and followed me. And I was like, how do you know who I am? And he's like, didn't you used to work at TL Capital and with some of his doctors? And I was like, oh my God, totally. And he's just like, yeah, I've known about you for a while. And I was just, it's really weird to be 40 years old, which I'm happy to admit, and to be like, everyone's like, oh, you're doing so well. And I'm like, guys, I feel like I just got started. Like I don't feel like anything I've done is remarkable yet. And yet I know writing a book and teaching at Stanford and all those things are cool. But it's funny because like I feel like at 40, I finally am starting to have some sense of domain expertise. And I really wasn't ready in the last decade to like put myself fully out there. So it's been a slow, like gradual increase over the last few years of being like, okay, now I think I'm ready to educate people. And it's it's been a huge honor. And I really feel like this next decade of my life is about service as much as possible to as many people as possible. So it feels really good to be seen by you guys. So thank you.
Oh,
it's wonderful.
wonderful.
It's wonderful. Should we just
Yeah.
kick it off with some of the
Yeah.
questions? Molly, do you want to get
Yeah.
started?
Well, my first question, I'm so curious, whenever I meet a licensed medical doctor, so who went to medical school, I'm always curious, how did you get from that to the wellness community? Because it can be
Yeah.
a jump. So tell me a little bit about that transition.
Well, first off, when I was a medical student, I saw a lot of things missing from my education. And I said to the family medicine department, I said, we are not being taught about sleep, nutrition, movement, stress, relationships. all the things that I still preach today, we weren't taught about any of it. And I said, we need a course on this because these students are not prepared. I'm not prepared. And I changed my lifestyle pretty dramatically as a medical student and ended up just performing extraordinarily well. And I was like getting very average grades. And then I changed my lifestyle and I started getting outstanding grades. I started feeling really happy again. So I saw a direct link to my performance and my health. And I said, there's something to this space of health, and I don't know what it is, but I don't know why I'm doing so well in school now that I've taken care of myself versus before when I was just nonstop studying, not sleeping, not eating enough, not spending enough time with family and friends, not exercising. I didn't know why those things were so important to my health and performance. And so I became obsessed because I was like, I went from an average on my first board exam to a 99th percentile. And that's
Wow.
pretty much not heard of. And I
Yeah.
was like, did I become smarter? And I become like, what happened? Because like, I don't know why I'm doing so much better. I just know I changed my lifestyle. And
Right.
it made me realize like, holy crap, if everybody knew what I knew, which is that if you take really good care of your health, it unlocks your, what I would call human capacity.
Yeah.
And like it was a decade later, I discovered this. I mean, I basically figured out the physics of health. And I was like, holy crap, I really believe that our physical health is a product of our physical energy capacity. And I
Mhm.
was like, what is energy capacity? And so I was like digging into mitochondrial biology because I had a mentor who introduced me to some phenomenal scientists, um, Nick Lane and Martine Picard and a bunch of other ones that are mitochondrial scientists. And basically, they were all teaching this sort of model of medicine that wasn't being taught to me in school. And I was like, what is this new sort of paradigm? And if you listen to Jack Kruse and if you follow mitochondrial science, basically what you learn is that your energy capacity is a product of your metabolism
Mhm.
and also your
Yes.
environment. And your metabolism and your environment are intimately intertwined, but you basically are here on this earth with this body to basically find energy resources and reproduce, whether you have kids or not. Like your biology's programmed for this.
Yeah.
And so really a lot of health breaks down to, in my opinion, metabolic health in one category
Mhm.
and relational health in the other category, human connection. And then
Mhm.
the third category is really like, once you have energy capacity, what are you going to use it for? It's like you're in a video game. You've got all these bars on the top of the video game. You've got all these lives. What are you going to use that energy for? What kind of mission are you on? Where are you going with this existence?
Mhm.
So these three concepts, these three pillars are kind of what I've built my career around is like metabolism, human connection is a sort of next chapter. And in the background, whether you call it spirituality, whether you call it manifestation, whether you call it purpose and meaning, basically like what are you doing with your existence to make meaning out of life and to actually direct your energy to something productive, whether it's having kids, building companies, making art, being of service to humanity in some way.
Right. That's fantastic. And how do you think people should figure out how to find that out? Like how would you guide people to find their purpose in that way?
I highly recommend going to Esalen Institute if you can afford it. But
Excellent.
you can't. Esalen Institute is the birthplace of the human potential movement.
Oh,
It's a hot springs on the coast of Big Sur. It's a phenomenal place for human develop, just for personal
Yeah.
development. And
wow.
I got really into it when I was younger. I mean, I got really lucky. I found my purpose in fifth grade, but I also I just like woke up and I was like, I'm going to become a doctor. This is what I'm here to do. But once I became a doctor, I was really disillusioned and disenchanted with the system. I
Yeah.
was like, this is a nightmare. Why did I sign up for this? This is unhealthy. This is
Mhm.
literally an unhealthy system I'm working in, and I'm not happy. If I'm not
Mhm.
healthy and happy, what am I doing here? So I left the mainstream medicine system. I started my own medical practice, and I sat with myself for 3 months in my apartment, in my loft in local Oakland, trying to figure out my life, literally on paper. And I would go to Esalen and I would sit there with a massive, massive notebook and I would just write out, okay, all the things that I think I can do with myself. Like, what can I really do? Who am I inspired by? What does my ideal future look like? Just, you got to get really, really full of like possibility. And just like, if you had no, if no, if money was not an option, if money was not a question, what would I do?
Yeah.
If I like could be of service to humanity, what would I do? If I could get paid for that, what would I do? And you just have to sit and be like deliberate and intentional about trying to dream as big as possible and then get realistic. Okay, what can I actually accomplish? And then what are my resources? What is available to me? And honestly, like a lot of what I did when I was younger was I literally went out and I helped as many companies as I possibly could. I just put myself out there, made very little money for starting out. Um, and I just put myself out there in Silicon Valley, and I went to these startups and I said, you don't understand healthcare. I've been working at it since ninth grade. Let me
Yeah.
help you. And I
Right.
just literally hustled for jobs. And if you're young and listening to this and you're in your 20s, like you got to learn to hustle if you want to be successful. Like, and it took me years of hustling to get to this point, and like years of being able to like figuring it out as I go, frankly, and using my brain very fortunate that God gave me a really, really great brain. But it was
Right.
it was a lot of just like boots on the ground, going out and trying to find work. And in Silicon Valley, it's probably the most ruthless and competitive environment in the country because it's like incredibly expensive to live there. And there's not a lot of, I mean, there was no doctors at the time that were working with startups. So I
Oh,
saw you have to be able to see opportunity where other people can't.
yeah.
And
Right.
I did that, and it just paid off dividends. So, putting yourself out there, helping others, and just like getting to work, even though you're like, there's a lot of entitlement in young people these days. There's like a lot of belief that like everything should be handed to them.
Mhm.
Trust me, it's not about that. It's like absolutely about how can I help? And
Yeah.
if you get the reputation of being incredibly helpful, incredibly generous with how much you help, eventually you get to be in the position where I'm in today, where you get to run your own company. And I have 3 companies now, and I have a lot of independence and freedom, and it's because it's by design. I literally sat and designed my life, and put it on paper. I was like, I want my life to look like this, and then I got it.
Do you still
Just
have that paper?
I,
Can you go
I
back and look at it?
screenshotted it all. It's all on my phone, and I go back to these screenshots still,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm like, whoa, I wrote that all out. And don't underestimate the power of writing things on paper,
yeah,
because like there is a magic to getting things on paper, but be very careful what you put down, because it might manifest. So
right.
be very careful. It would manifest with precision, get really clear, and don't act unless you have clarity.
so
Interesting.
so basically young entrepreneurs that want to get into this health and wellness space, your answer to that is basically grind and don't expect to just do everything you can and help
And if
basically.
you have an idea,
Yeah.
believe in yourself. You don't have to wait as long as I did. I had to build a lot of confidence in myself, because a lot of my confidence was broken through the medical education system and residency. And
Yeah.
it really breaks you down. Like medicine will break you down on purpose. It's by design. It's supposed to get you to be brainwashed into a system that requires you to endure enormous amounts of pain in order to survive. And so if I had not had that, I probably would have started sooner. I'm not regretting any of it, but I do think that if you have an idea, I know a lot of young people who are like 21, 22, and they just have great ideas and they're just going for it. And I didn't have the confidence then. And if you just believe in yourself, you can accomplish far more than you realize. But it took me a lot longer to rebuild that confidence after feeling like I was pretty traumatized by medicine.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I think a lot of doctors today and I hate to say it, but there's a lot of PTSD in medicine.
Wow.
And it's just a really painful system to work in. So I had a lot of deprogramming to do. Fortunately, I was in the Bay Area, and there's a lot of opportunity for that. There's a lot of personal development there. There's a lot of spirituality.
Mhm.
And if you don't have all of that clouding your way, you can start way sooner and just start companies. I really believe in entrepreneurship. I really believe this is the best country in the world to be an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And I think young people should just don't go to college, just start a company. Like
Yeah.
ask your parents for a loan to build a startup,
Yep.
and just go for it, because you're going to learn more building a company than you are in school.
Yeah.
And the very most important thing you learn in education is how to learn. If you figured out how to learn already, you don't need college. If you don't know how to learn, go to college and learn how to learn. But I learned how to learn in college, and that being an autodidact is like the most valuable skill you can have in a very competitive world, because how quickly you adapt to your world and environment is like your intelligence. Your capacity to change and adapt is to me a big massive measure of intelligence. And
Mhm.
I don't think that as someone who's taught in college and medical school, I really am losing a lot of faith in the education system, but I've never lost faith in building startups and building companies.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
interesting what you're saying, because I got 2 teenage boys that are 14 and 16, and we're exactly talking about you are speaking my language, because this is how we feel. Unless you're going into
Yes.
I'm a lawyer, or
Yes.
very specific, but
Yes.
they are both on the entrepreneurial route. And I think exactly what you said, you
It's the
know.
greatest privilege in the world to be an entrepreneur, to be honest. But there's also a lot of young people that are going back into trade schools, learning becoming electricians, becoming plumbers. My current boyfriend, he became a master plumber before he started an oil and gas company. And then he sold, he like moved out of that and now he's working in construction. But, there's a lot of value in learning those skills. I was a phlebotomist before I became a doctor. I worked in hospitals and drew blood.
Yeah.
It's really valuable to have those entry level jobs, or those jobs that require a specific skill, because it teaches you, okay, is this the life that I want, or do I want something bigger? And so I don't underestimate the power of learning a trade. But if you can go beyond that and be a leader and run a company, um, there's so much satisfaction from having a team. And another thing is if you can learn to run a team, like I did not learn that until my mid 30s. If I had learned how to be a better team member and like a leader, I mean, I thought I was a leader, but it's really hard to be a leader in a system that teaches you to wait in line and not actually speak up and actually keep your head down. And so Silicon Valley taught me so much about leadership, so much about competition, so much about just just like putting yourself out there and taking risks.
Yeah. So
What's
what would
been
you
your
say
biggest,
to what,
oh, sorry.
oh, sorry. No, I just was curious, what would you say then, like say, you're a young, like let's say you're like Alex's son's age 16
Mhm.
and you want to be a doctor. So like what you have your medical license so you can use that as like
Yeah,
your to get somewhere, but what if
sure.
like if you could go back and do it again, like what would you do? What path would you take?
Well, first
Because
off,
people
so I
love
did
those certifications.
I
Yeah.
did speak with the Peoria Medical Association president before I became a doctor, because my parents were like, "You really want to do this? You should go talk to doctors." And I would say, do what I did, go talk to a bunch of doctors, and if they cannot convince you to not go become a doctor, then you should become a doctor. And that's the only way I would recommend it, is if nobody can talk you out of it. If
Yeah.
someone can talk you out of becoming a physician, you should not do it, because it's just not, it's going to eat you alive. The system
Yeah.
is so hard. And yet, those years, I have so many memories of my medical education, and some of those memories, well, you'll just never ever lose those memories of, like, some of them are terrifying and some of them are beautiful. And if you really love humanity and you really want to serve in a big way and you want to be a leader in medicine, like, we need doctors,
Yeah.
but you're going to have to learn to be incredibly resilient and capable of withstanding enormous emotional turmoil. And they
Right.
don't teach you how to handle death. They don't teach you how to handle catastrophic incidents. And so that, as a result, doctors are really suffering. So if you are incredibly resilient and capable of handling enormous amounts of pain, go into medicine. But there's
Right.
so many things you can do now besides
Yeah.
becoming a doctor. Like, you can become a functional nutritionist and order the
Right.
same labs that I
Mhm.
do every day. You can
Mhm.
do so much as a physician assistant. You can do so much as like a nurse these days. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not saying don't become a doctor, but like, if you want a lot of debt, go become a doctor. Like, you know, like,
Exactly.
if you don't, then start a company, or, become a coach. But I
Yeah.
think we're heading into like a huge revolution in health, and biohacking was just the beginning. Biohacking is a term that's just used to describe having to go around a system in order to learn about your health, in order to optimize your health. It's no longer about hacking the system. It's a new system is emerging. It's a bio-optimization, consumer-driven health movement.
Mhm.
And it's not about hacking anymore. It's about, hey, I am entitled to learn about my body, and I'm going to go get the information regardless of what my doctor says.
Yep. Yep.
And that is
Empowerment.
that's a deeply powering. People talked about patient engagement forever in medicine.
Yeah.
It's literally the secret to chronic disease management is you are engaged in your health.
Yeah.
Biohacking is literally the emphasis of human engagement in one's health.
Mhm.
So I'm seeing, and I have been predicting this for a decade, that there would be a second system emerging that's consumer driven, that's not necessarily going to be covered by insurance, but is going to be a movement where consumers are going to demand what they want from the system that's not there. So they're going to build a system. And this
Yeah.
is where all these entrepreneurs have come in. The number of fertility companies that I get ads for right now on Instagram, there are so many fertility trackers. There are
Yeah.
so many wearable trackers. There are so many CGMs coming out.
Yeah.
There's so many lab companies. There's literally, like, if you want to learn about your health, there's nothing stopping you now aside from your budget, you know?
It almost,
And
it,
that's real.
yeah. And I almost feel like on some level, the traditional doctors are almost going to become obsolete in a way in, you know, in 10,
I don't
you know.
know. I mean, one of my friends got my two people I know just got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Oh,
I have,
sorry.
you know, and I know, but it's like cancer's real. I mean, Kate Middleton got diagnosed with breast cancer. She looked pretty darn healthy. And I think we are still going to need modern medicine for big catastrophic
Yeah.
disease states. And
Right.
honestly, medicine is doing a pretty good job at treating cancer. It's like childhood cancer rates are lower than they've ever been in terms of I mean, like childhood cancer treatment efficacy is like really good these days. Like we've done enormously positive things with modern medicine. And I don't want to discount modern medicine. What we really need is doctors to be working on hard stuff, not chronic disease management, not the 80% of diseases that are preventable,
Yeah,
by
preventive.
optimizing
That's
mitochondrial function,
Yeah.
metabolic flexibility. It used to be 88, now it's 92% of the country is metabolically unhealthy. That is 1 in 3 people have prediabetes. That is a lot of people that have skinny fat, that have visceral fat, that are walking around eating garbage foods, and it is not rocket science to get healthy. But we live in a toxic environment, food and pollution and media, and you have to clean up your life if you want to be healthy in this country. It's hard. I moved to Jackson to get out of city life so I could drink glacial water, hunt
Yeah.
elk, and like run around outside every day, you know?
Yeah. And go skiing.
yeah,
Yeah,
And go
absolutely.
yeah,
skiing and like be and breathe fresh air on top of mountaintops. It's amazing. But
Yeah.
it's also like
amazing.
a huge privilege. Like this is easily the most expensive place. Well, this is
Yeah.
one of the most expensive places to live in the country.
Yeah.
So for the people that don't have the money, or let's first ask you, what are your 3 favorite biohacks that you do every single day? They're non-negotiable. That's question number 1. And number
Sure.
2 is for people that don't have the money, can they do them as well? Or do you have hacks for them that they can do, let's say?
Yeah, I will say that over the last month, some of these habits have been a little bit challenging to maintain. However, because I had like I had a breakup, and then I had a move, and then I had a lot of things. Just a lot happened last month. So I'm just gonna give you like the short lowdown on like my ideal day and what the non-negotiables. First off, I think the biggest non-negotiable is sleep for me. Like no matter how bad or crazy my life has gotten, sleep is like the cornerstone of my health. And I
What are
always
your
forget to
sleep
tell people
hacks?
that. Huh?
So how are you helping people with sleep? Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt,
yeah,
but
yeah, totally. I mean, if
hacks.
I actually have seen an enormous number of young, healthy men with upper airway resistance syndrome where they're not fully sleep apneic, but they are definitely on their way to getting it and they're skinny. And I think we are fundamentally overlooking some weird thing that's going on in society with bone structure, with breathing patterns.
Mhm.
I don't know what it's related to, but I really can't understand why I'm seeing a lot of healthy people that are like that are struggling to breathe at night. And
Mhm.
so getting your sleep properly dialed is transformative for your HRV, for your resilience, for your health, and for insulin resistance. Like you cannot have a healthy metabolism if you don't have healthy sleep.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's something that I have not emphasized enough on podcasts, but I need to. It was like the first thing that I biohacked. And one of the second things that I biohacked was my circadian rhythm. So sunlight. Like the one thing that I have a massive window and I see sun first thing in the morning, every morning. And this is a big important thing for circadian rhythms
Mhm.
because you need bright sunlight in your eyes to set off your suprachiasmatic nucleus and send a cascade of hormonal events down to the rest of your body. So you have to get your sleep right. Dark room. I actually air purification is really key for sleep. A lot of people don't know that.
Mhm.
I have like a phenomenal air purifier. I think it's called like
Yeah, which one?
I think
What's
it's
the
called
name?
a Mila. But
Really?
it's the best air purifier. Let me just make sure that's the right one. Um,
Is that you sleep with that in your room at
Mila
night?
cares.
Oh,
I have it in I mean, it basically it reports to my phone at all times, like ozone levels, air quality levels. When I cook sometimes in this cabin I'm staying in, it will change the air quality. I open windows. Like I can literally see that some of the things, like even blow drying my hair can increase
yeah.
the particulate number. And you just don't
Interesting.
know these things. So I have like multiple air purifiers all over this place.
Oh,
And
wow.
I just really believe in like air quality and water quality as well. So just honestly, the basics have got to be covered. If you don't, I mean, air, water, sleep, light, the simple things. Diet is really not that hard to figure out, you know, like you just can't eat processed crap and
Yeah.
fast food. I don't care if you're vegetarian or a vegan. I don't care if you're paleo or ancestral. I care if you're eating real food.
Yeah.
And if you are having problems with digestion and gut health, you might have to change some of those things that go into your body because you might have to tailor that diet to properly being able to avoid certain things that are inflaming your body that may not inflame others. But as somebody who thought that she had to be paleo and experimented with eating grains and legumes and vegetarian for a few months, I learned so much. And I was like, wow, I didn't die. I lost a lot of hair. Wasn't ideal, but it taught me a lot about blood sugar. Like you don't need to necessarily go vegan or go paleo or keto to fix diabetes. You just need to get the crap out of your diet that's poisoning you.
Yeah.
And that's honestly part of the secret is like cleaning up the actual content of your nutrition and just
Yeah.
eating whole foods. Like if you look at my fridge right now, it is the freezer's stocked with elk and the fridge is completely packed with vegetables and fruits.
Yeah.
And there's literally
Awesome.
like tons of high quality fats and lots. And like, I don't eat that much. I mean, I wouldn't say there's tons, but there's a lot of high quality fats in that fridge. So high quality fats, high quality produce, high quality meat. To me, that's like the secret to my health. And I do have some grains now. I reintroduced grains and some legumes into my diet and didn't die. And I was like, whoa,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
like pretty wild, you know?
Yeah.
That's great.
That's amazing.
So the old
But
fashioned
traditionally
way of,
prepared, by the way, very importantly, traditionally prepared, soaked and sprouted, and sometimes pressure cooked, depending on the product.
Yeah.
so never fried in a pan, never with like butter or ghee or,
I do use
you know,
ghee. Yeah, I do use
yeah.
ghee. I don't fry food, but I do use high quality raw butter that I got from this purveyor here. I make my own ghee. I make my own smen, which is like a fermented ghee. Like I definitely thought I couldn't do dairy and then reintroduced it and my body was fine. But I don't do milk. I feel really sick when I drink milk.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know what I do. It's weird. I can handle cheese, but I mostly do raw cheeses. And sheeps and goats mostly, a little bit of raw cow.
Interesting. Do you
So when
find
I
that
say,
people are sensitive? Any of your clients are sensitive to, even healthy foods too? Or
Oh
you
yeah,
just,
if you have gut dysfunction,
yeah,
you have to heal the gut. And I definitely do elimination diets for people that are like, you know, if someone's gut is really destroyed, right? A GAPS diet is pretty
yeah,
tried and true. And so an ancestral bone broth based, highly cooked vegetables, cooked meats, like, you know, stews, like things that the body basically pre-digested food.
yeah.
But I don't think people really, I think the carnivore movement is like really ignoring the value of plants. And once you've healed your gut, once your gut is fully functioning, like you need to load your body with phytonutrients.
Totally.
And if you can't digest a lot of things, then there's also, you got to ask yourself, what is creating this stress response in this body? What's going on in my life where I'm not digesting? Because I see a lot of digestive issues in people that are not digesting their emotions, that
Mm,
are not properly relaxed, that have a vagal, you know, their vagal tone is all over the place.
yeah.
And they're just not, they're usually going through majorly stressful times and events. And this is not the time to fast. This is not the time to like do a lot of challenging metabolic work. It's like consistent meal times and like, you know, if you want to, the simplest thing is just like if somebody's really stressed out, making sure that they have consistent meal times and don't necessarily do a ton of fasting.
Yeah. Yeah. So in general, like if you're burned out, if you're
Oh, if
like,
you're burned out, you need to go consistently first thing in the morning, get some protein in your body, get some blood sugar regulation. You cannot be low carb. It's really hard to be low carb if you're burned out.
yeah,
Like your body wants safety signaling and carbs are safety. It's like, oh, there's food in the environment. Cool. Keto is like, I am out in the world as a warrior looking for food.
yeah,
And, you know, I've actually seen men. I only very recently started seeing men that were starting to really fall apart on like their biohacking journeys.
yeah,
And there's this guy and he was just like, I'm doing cold plunge, I'm doing sauna, I'm doing fasting, I'm doing keto, and I'm doing paleo, and I'm doing low carb, and I'm just like doing all the things, and I can't seem to, I just am so stressed and I'm not sleeping. And I'm like, dude, you're doing all the biohacks all at once and you're managing like $1 billion portfolio. And you need, like, your body's probably pretty cortisol deficient, and it sounds like you're not, sounds like you need to actually eat some carbs and like get some consistent meals in, and like just cut back on the fasting and cut back on the cold plunge, and like all these metabolic stressors are good until they're not.
Yeah.
And mitohormetic stressors are good for you in moderation. You need to use them to become stronger, but if you layer too many of them together, it's like a cup that's overflowing. And
Yeah.
it's just like too many stressors in the stress cup, and it overflows and everything starts to break down.
Yeah.
And it's nothing different than like watching like a massive storm outside. It's stressful. Like if there's a hurricane, you're not going to do renovations to the house. You're
Yeah.
going to try to like maintain the house that's standing. You don't want it to fall apart. And so this sort of like balance of mitohormetic stressors with not burning yourself out in the midst of a very chaotic world we're living in, it's a really big challenge. And I think everyone's starting to wake up to like, okay, we all need to take a pause, and we all need to like reset, and we need to like ask ourselves like, how do we want to feel every day? And how much do we want to work every day? And I think there's a big question that society is
Yeah.
asking itself, which is, why are we all hustling so hard again? What
Yeah.
happened to enjoying
What
our
is this
lives?
for? Yeah.
Why is everyone so
Right.
miserable in this
Yep.
country?
Yeah.
What about getting outside and running around and playing a little bit more?
Yeah. And why are we on our phones 24/7 and never like, never taking a break? Like, how the French like take the weekends off. They don't allow you to email on the weekends and things
In
like that. Like
California, they might be passing a similar rule where employers cannot message you on after hours. It was in the news
it's kind of
yesterday. And I
brilliant.
was like, my team has
Wow.
already asked me to do that, but I'm like, no, I want to talk to you
No,
guys. I want to talk to you guys. What are you talking about? I need to talk to you.
that's
So,
so funny.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, like in this whole journey that you've had, what have been your biggest obstacles or challenges, let's say, and
Mm,
how have you overcome them?
well, shoot. I mean, our biggest challenges have come in business. So health has not been that challenging. I feel at 40 incredibly healthy. Although I do have to say that, just to follow up on the last point. So I went on an achievement rampage in like 2022, and I literally was fundraising, teaching at Stanford, seeing patients at top tech companies like OpenAI. I was I moved, and I reorganized my entire life to build a startup, and I was finishing a book. I launched an online course, and I did all this in 1 year, and it was like
Wow.
achievement rampage.
Yeah.
And by 2023, I almost broke my health, and I had some Dutch test marker, not Dutch test, but Cyrex Labs markers came back pretty abnormal. And I was like, oh my God, if I don't reverse this ASAP, I'm going to get an autoimmune condition. I already have celiac. I'm going to get another one.
Oh,
And so
geez.
I had to like go to my friend Katrine Valinsky and say, Katrine, because she's my biohacking guru. And I
Oh,
go, Katrine, what do I do about this? And I had run a bunch of Cyrex arrays, and she's like, okay, Molly, this is totally fixable. You're not full blown autoimmune yet, but you will be if you continue living the way you're living. And
mm,
I was like, shit. So I go to Katrine, and she is just like, if you want to if you need your body fixed quite quickly, you go to Katrine. Like she's not a doctor, but she is better than most doctors at biohacking.
Yep.
And
wow.
I did everything
I
she
met
told
her.
me to do. And within 2 months, all the markers were reversed.
Oh,
But it
Wow.
put me in my place, because as someone who thought she was a high performance race car, who didn't, who was like pretty invincible, to feel like, uh-oh, I'm not invincible. I'm actually a human. Crap, I'm
yep.
not an alien. I thought I was invincible. It was a very humbling experience, and it made me pause and literally ask myself, okay, where do I want to go from here? How do I want to live? What do I want to do? And I'm in this like really fun place right now where I'm like, okay, my startup, we're starting to get our first clinical study results back, and they're looking really positive. So like all that work did not go, it wasn't in vain. My medical practice, I'm rebuilding in Jackson. It was mostly California based, but I'm kind of building a new one in Jackson. But I'm asking myself, like, how many patients do I want to see? What kind of life do I want to live? And
Mhm.
then this like whole desire to be of service. Okay, I've already got enough knowledge. Like, how do I create products that I can just like get out there right now? That are not going to require me to be super on every day, all the time. And so I'm really trying to create a new life from a place of like, if I could live in alignment with all of my health values, what does my work life look like?
Mhm.
And it's definitely not trying to go back to the level of overextension that I was living in my previous life. It's not
Right.
going back to achievement for the sake of achievement. It's like going back to like, okay, is this somehow of service to, I mean, arguably everything I was doing is of service to humanity, but it's like, is this of service to my health and also humanity? Am I living in integrity with the things that I am preaching? And if I'm not, then it's totally, it's like Huberman just got lambasted for being like this openly like dopamine. He's talking about dopamine and he's talking about like nonstop dopamine. And then there's clearly some relationship issues that he has to dopamine.
Yeah.
And like, I'm
Yeah.
like watching him and I'm like, well, I was like feeling really empathetic for this guy because I'm like, as a doctor, as a health doctor, like I need to go and tell people that like just because like yeah, there's a lot of things that I preach and sometimes I don't follow my own advice and I overextend
Mhm.
myself and
Mhm.
I have burned out before a few times. And I can't let that if I want this next decade to be about being integrity, my highest values, then I can't do that anymore. Like I can't
Yeah.
just truth be told, I can't go and just fix myself every time I break because there's only so much you can fix before things start to really break.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested now. Like biohacking was a thing that I did in order to maintain a level of performance that was frankly borderline unhealthy.
Mhm.
And just because you're high performance race car does not mean you should be out racing every day, you
Mhm.
know? And I didn't know that really fully until I was like, oh my God, there might actually be real consequences to this kind of lifestyle. So I'm for all the women out there that are listening and men that are like grinding and struggling and trying to biohack everything. Like sometimes the most important thing you can do is take a step back from your life and look at it and be like, how do I want to live? How do I want to feel? What kind of things do I want to accomplish? And how can I become content with what I have right now and
Mhm.
not constantly be feeling like I have to do more and more and more and more and more in order to like somehow be good enough. And
Yeah.
so that's really kind of like the biggest challenge is like not forced, like not like kind of like being humbled by reality and being like accepting that like you may not be able to do everything you want to do all at once.
Right. Well, it's tricky too with like, especially like moms, like with Alex and I too, that becomes an even more
And
like
I'm not a mom yet, and I want to be a
crazy.
mom, you
Right.
know?
So it becomes an even more like stressful thing that you add to your plate because it's a full-time job that you add already onto your other full-time job. That so it
And I have
becomes
3.
yeah.
You
I
know?
work with so many moms and I find like you're able to when you've overdone it and you have a way to test yourself and all of these things. But I work with so many women where I'm trying to tell them like, okay, your cup has overfilled. Like you have too
Yeah,
much on your plate. You need to scale back. And they don't want to. They like
yeah,
there is definitely a feeling of like, no, I'm pushing. And that has been my hardest thing in working with clients is trying to get them to prioritize peace and
yeah,
prioritize like downtime too. That can be really tricky, especially when you're a mom or a parent and like your only downtime is actually like managing kids all the time but
right.
never have any downtime. And then they're
Yeah.
waking up at night and watching 3 hours of Netflix because they don't have
No.
personal time for themselves.
Blue
Yeah.
light in your face in
Yeah,
the middle of the
yeah.
night, big no.
I
I
Big
know, right?
no.
I
I
know.
agree.
Like Netflix,
But it's
just
like
also people
psychology.
just stop watching TV. It's
Yeah.
such
Oh yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more. I never watch. But
it's
Molly, I think it's really hard too because this is one of my biggest struggles, and I've always been, and I ran myself to the
Yeah.
ground with Hashimoto's because my mind is so strong and I'm super competitive. So I
yep.
never stop and I don't allow myself. So I can very much identify with what you're saying. And it's like trying to really practice that control of like, okay, enough now, and really be kind of focused on, your body needs also time to rest. But it's very difficult, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of high performers have that trouble. It's that kind of I guess self-discipline to stop and take a break, right?
I mean, it could be literally as simple as 15 minutes a couple times a day where you just sit and breathe and meditate. And like that is so hard for most of us to do. And yet, like when I look at my aura ring, when I was at like my peak stress levels last year, I had zero rest throughout the day. There was literally no rest until the evening. And it was like, hey, maybe you should like take a pause during the day. And it's like, we're actually meant to, one of the things some of the things that I did tactically to change were I hired a COO for my businesses. And this woman, Nadia, has basically transformed my life by like basically like taking over a lot of the operational things that I was doing that I'm honestly just not good at. Like some people are magical at operations and some people are great at vision and executive function. And I'm much better CEO than I am a COO. And I was trying to do both. So like if you can find people that will do things for you that you don't have time to do, like I'm hiring a cleaning lady because I just don't have time to clean, things like that are really helpful. So knowing your best times to work and really organizing your schedule around when you are going to be most productive. Because I know if you're a mom out there, right, you're probably going to have maybe 3 hours of the day where you can do things on your own, as long as you don't have like a new baby. And those 3 hours, you need to fit them into your schedule so that you are going to be full go mode in those 3 hours. So they are so well spent. And then if you can actually like find time for you on that high functioning, and then ideally spend, if you have calls, like go on walks, like if go outside and like take your calls outside. And when I was in Florida, one of the best things about Florida is like you just can walk outside at any time and take calls. It was so fun to walk around in Florida at such beautiful weather. But you got to work your environment and your schedule to work with your lifestyle. And if it's not working, you need to change it. So like I just know that if I spend multiple days of the week indoors in front of my computer, I feel like I'm shrinking. And if I go outside and get like a couple hours outside in a few days a week, oh my God, it's like night and day. So sometimes I will literally work weekends just because I want to take a day off during the week to go ski or be outside. So like just because your schedule says, I mean, not everybody can do their own 9 to 5, but if you have the independence to create your 9 to 5, you know, get the kids to like a play date and use your weekends. So just like work your schedule so that you can get your stuff done when it works for you. And don't feel like you have to live by a 9 to 5 schedule. Like find the time that works for you and ruthlessly prioritize what matters and get super clear on where you're going with your projects.
Good one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's really
and what's benefiting you and what's not, for sure. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Adamo? We're so curious about that.
Yeah.
Please tell us a little bit more about what's going on there.
Yeah, so Adamo is the Latin term for to fall in love. And I was very, very enchanted by the idea. I still am enchanted by the idea of love. I was really, 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 really obsessed with like understanding human connection. And then I got into Helen Fisher's work and she studied the science of love and she found that there's 3 motivational drives. There's the sex drive, the romantic love drive, and the drive to attach. And I said to myself, okay, well, I want to figure out how to actually scientifically measure and improve love. I was like, I've done this for metabolism, I've done this for health. How can we do this for human connection? So I hired a research team of scientists from Imperial College. I hired 2 world-class sex therapists. And I said, let's invent a protocol that literally measurably improves human connection. And we figured out measures like that are clinical measures for all of these 3 things. And we started running a study, and it's a digital health program, and it's designed to be a new sex therapy that's designed to create a deeper intimacy between partners. And I saw a lot of problems in human sexuality where women are just, I mean, if women are consistently having painful friction-based sex, they're just not going to want it as much. And it's not as fun to have if you don't feel turned on by the experience because it hurts. And a lot of women suffer from sexual dysfunction. A lot of men do. It's about 30% of men and 40% of women. And there's a massive orgasm gap between men and women. And I think a lot of it comes down to the model of sexuality we're being taught is through porn, and it's very much a masculine model. And so I really do believe that like some of the biggest drivers of sexual dysfunction are certainly organic biological causes, but if those have been ruled out, then you have to look at the psychosomatic. And those psychosomatic causes of sexual dysfunction are typically relationship problems, mood disorders, and trauma. And so my company started as a psychedelic company because we were working on a psychedelic pharmaceutical drug. And it just became clear that it was going to take 20 years, maybe 30 years to commercialize this compound. And I was like, maybe what we need to do is like take a step back and ask ourselves,
Right.
like, what can we actually realistically accomplish? So
Mhm.
MDMA is likely going to be approved for PTSD, hopefully.
Mhm.
And so there's this like movement happening in psychedelics where there's a lot of clinical research going into psilocybin assisted therapy for depression, and ketamine is being prescribed around the country for PTSD. So
Mhm.
so we're seeing like, and we're even seeing ketamine assisted couples therapy emerge. And I
Ooh,
don't think
oh, that's
psychedelics are good
interesting.
for everybody. And I'm way more cautious and way more conservative and way more critical of the psychedelic space than ever before.
Mm.
But I do think that there is going to be a role for psychedelic based couples therapy. And I'm going to publish a paper this year, basically trying to explain the neurobiology of how psychedelics can mimic human, it can basically like induce a lot of the same neurobiology as love. They can
Mm.
release large quantities of oxytocin and dopamine and serotonin, norepinephrine. These are all the neurotransmitters of romantic love and attachment.
Mm.
So I look at them as like tools in the tool set for helping to reconnect people, but they should not be used without proper guidance because they can definitely harm you. And it's like just like a scalpel is dangerous. You just don't run around with a scalpel. You know,
Right.
if you're not just going to do brain surgery without knowing what you're doing. So I tell people, if you're going to do psychedelics, choose your shaman, doctor, therapist like you would a neurosurgeon,
Yeah.
because they are not perfectly safe. And I'm not telling people that they should just go off and use them, but we have developed some products that we would like to test in a clinical study format with our sex therapy. And that's kind of the vision, is that for people who are really struggling with sexual dysfunction, that there's a way for them to overcome it. And I was able to overcome my sexual dysfunction with psychedelics and with therapy. And so I'm just like really hopeful for that there's just, you know, those 40% of women don't have to suffer so much.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
I
Do
didn't
you
realize it
have,
was at such a high percentage. Gosh,
yeah,
that's terrible.
that's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for the audience that have been married for like a really long time to give that spark
Well, we
back?
have our new cohort coming up, which is exciting. It's
Oh.
going to start in June. And so, you know, this summer is a great time to really work on your relationships because you're already kind of naturally turned on with the sun and excitement,
Mhm.
and there's just a lot going on in the summertime, right? So the biggest thing is that you have to commit effort towards your improving your sex life and improving your intimacy. If you don't actually actively do it, it's like anything else. It's not going to grow. It's not going to change. So it's like water, you know, the grass is greener where you water it.
Mhm.
And you know, my current boyfriend was married previously for 15 years. And I asked him, what's it like to be married and have sex with someone for 15 years? And he goes, what's your favorite breakfast? And I was like, I don't know. I really like an omelet maybe. And he's like, well, you really like that. Like if you'd have that, you'd have it again, right? I'm like, yeah, I'd have it again. He's like, well, it's kind of like that. You just really like it. And it's your favorite breakfast. And I was like, oh, cool. And the thing is that like, you might, let's say this is like your favorite breakfast, but you don't, maybe you want to change the flavor of it. Like, how are you going to do that? You have to add new
Right.
ingredients,
Add some
right?
hot
You have to
sauce,
like,
like, yeah.
so
Right.
what we've figured out, and I mean, I am not a sex therapist. I work with two of the best in the world. But basically, we have developed a psychosomatic sex therapy that actually involves teaching people about how to have better sex.
Wow.
And it's a clinical therapeutic method that we are testing with clinical research. So it's not designed to be just like a sex coaching program. It's designed to work with doctors to prescribe it, therapists to prescribe it, and for
Wow.
people to go through this with their partner as like a is an intervention to improve to improve physical and emotional intimacy between partners. And one of the things that we learned in our program, one second, need 5 minutes. Sorry, I have a patient. I need to
No
go
worries. We're
on a
almost
call.
there.
One of the things that
Yes.
one of the things that I learned is that like you really have to develop a certain level of sexual sovereignty and and really understand, you know, your erotic individuation, which means that you need to understand that your body is yours. What turns you on is what turns you on. Whatever is in your mind that turns you on, you need to embrace that.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you need to embrace the fact that like you have boundaries and your body needs to be respected. And when a woman or man feels as though their boundaries are properly respected, they tend to open up more. The
Mhm.
problem is that a lot of people don't talk about what feels good or doesn't feel good. And so they're putting up with painful, shitty experiences in the bedroom. and they're not speaking up about it, and they're not talking about it, and they're not talking about what would actually turn them on. And as a result, people are kind of like settling into a pattern or a habit that may be really dissatisfactory, like may cause a lot of dissatisfaction. So we have created a opening for people to actually explore together their sexuality with their partner and learn new practices that they can engage in that actually give you the capacity to turn yourself on and have more autonomy over your own arousal and your own what turns your body on. And you realize it's actually not always about your partner turning you on, it's about you turning yourself on. And that is there's a lot of shifts in this method that really make you think differently about sex. Like instead of having someone just be the more dominant person in the bedroom, you learn to be an active receiver. You learn to bring a partner into you. You learn a partner who's in the more giving position learns to be an adaptive giver, learns to actually attune themselves to your body. And it just changes the relationship structure because you realize that you have a giver and a receiver in you at all times. Sometimes you are in the giving position. And when I was doing a workshop with one of my friends, totally platonic, we just went to the workshop with our sex therapist, and it was like we were doing some hip practices, and I was on top of him, fully clothed. And I realized that like when I had been on top of a partner before, I was actually in the giving position, and I did not realize that I was actually causing myself pain and him pain, right? So I wasn't attuning to myself or my partner as in the giving position. So it's like really learning this basic stuff that we should have been taught honestly in school. Like we should probably teach this in high school and colleges because everyone should get proper sex ed.
Right.
And yet,
No one talks about
I
it ever.
don't know if I'm even allowed to teach this in schools, but I really think that like every teenager should be like, hey, before you have sex, you might want to learn how to do it.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
instead of us kind of haphazardly figuring it out through porn. And that example is women are not getting pleasure.
No.
Like women are not enjoying themselves in most porns. They're just being penetrated.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we have this orgasm gap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah,
But there's so much room for that. And I keep bringing up France, but I think in France they do have like how to be in a loving relationship with a partner class actually in schools, which is incredible. And like
That's
we
awesome.
need that here on some level just to get, out of this whole like, we're just watching this porn and that's how we learn,
Yeah. So look, I want to invite everyone to go to my website, www.livingadamo.com and @livingadamo on Instagram. My personal Instagram is @drmolly.co, same as my website, www.drmolly.co. So please come and follow me and find out about our next cohort, and we'd love to have you guys.
That would be amazing.
Fabulous. And buy Molly's book, The Spark Factor.
Yes.
Yes, that's awesome.
Loving it.
Where is that? On Amazon?
It's on Amazon, yeah. And for people that are out there that are like practitioners or nurses or coaches or nutritionists, I do have an online course that's based on this course I taught at Stanford. It's called Your Healthspan Journey, and it's extremely detailed course on metabolic health and health span extension.
Amazing.
Molly, just to kind of close this up, where will we see you in 5 years? Where is Molly Maloof?
I'm hoping that I can become a voice to a generation of women who are starting to own their power and really own their purchasing power when it comes to health. So women are the biggest spenders in health. And yet we don't realize that power that we have to actually guide the health of this country. And so I really think women are starting to really wake up and realize this is not a man's game. We are literally made for nurturing and for health and for human connection. And I think that if I can be a beacon of hope for a generation of women, multiple generations of women, to like embrace our power together and recognize that like we are literally going to be able to collectively change the world through doing what we're best at, which is connection and healing and creating life and nurturing life. That's really where I want to go with my career. Is I really want to be a physician, public figure who people can look to for honest and integrous solutions to optimizing their health.
Beautiful. Lovely. Yes.
Thank you so much, Molly. This is amazing.
Guys.
Really enjoyed chatting with you. We totally vibe with you on every level. So,
Aw.
so we're
I'll
so
have to come
thrilled
visit
that
you
you're
guys
gonna
in
be-
Vero Beach.
Yeah, you got to
Oh,
come
come
down.
down.
And we can
Yes.
go for a walk outside while on our calls.
Yes. Yeah.
I do got to run though, but you guys are awesome, and I'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you,
Yes, have a
Molly.
good one,
Thank
Molly.
you.
Bye now.
Fabulous.
Bye.
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 Bye.